Okay, Will, just want to start with, if possible, if you want to give a quick overview of who you are and where you're currently working and what you're doing at that university.
Yeah, hi Chris. My name's Dr. Will Evans. I'm senior lecturer in Sport, Health and Exercise Science Department at the University of Sunderland, and recently as well program lead for MSc in Sport and Exercise. I focus predominantly on teaching exercise physiology, but with the undergraduate students, I'm also the module leader for the performance analysis module that we deliver at level 5, and I've been the module leader for the past 3 years. And
Perfect.
this has been a new module as well that we've undertaken. So it was newly created 3 years ago and has been delivering for 3 years.
Nice, nice. So you mentioned to me previously as well, Will, that although analysis isn't your main focus, you say you teach on the physiology parts, but you've noticed kind of a rise in popularity in performance analysis and the interest that the students are having. So just a little bit on how you feel that's changed since the course started to kind of now, and what you're kind of seeing from a student's perspective and their interest in the field of analysis.
Yeah, as you mentioned, my uh, area of interest and background is within exercise physiology, in particular clinical exercise physiology. But as you know, as you're a lecturer, you have to fit into where you need to fill in gaps. And there was a new module that was developed 3 years ago that was performance analysis. And I had some time, so they wanted me to fill in that gap. What I've noticed as I've been teaching on that module is, and this is nothing to do with, I'm certain, my teaching on that module, is just the engagement that we do get from the cohort in terms of it being something new, interesting, novel, that they're being taught that they can engage with. It seems to be that they can see something tangible at the end of that module
Yeah.
that provides a clear pathway into employment.
Mm.
And this is something that perhaps some of the modules don't always clearly identify. And I think because there is that clear endpoint with real roles available for them, you see greater engagement of those students within the module. And I think as well, what they obtain from it is the appreciation that a lot of the skills that we teach are transferable. So
Yeah.
when we encompass that within data analysis and handling data and then talking to clients, it's so transferable across all data analyst roles.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing at the moment. And many of our students are going on to do postgraduate work at various different institutions and aligned with clubs on internships.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's nice. So the actual analysis module itself then, Will, is that something that all of the students undertake, or is it a subject that they would choose in year two or three, or how does it that look?
Yeah. Apart from in COVID, when we also had a PE and coaching students involved, it's predominantly aimed at the sport and exercise science students.
Yeah.
And then coaching students can opt into that as well. Yeah, it is predominantly for our sport and exercise science
Yeah.
program. We are changing our programs and we now have sport and exercise science and then a coaching program now, and we sort of reduced how many programs we actually have.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah,
Nice. Nice. So just a question around then the tools that you use. Obviously, one of them tools is in play online. So I'm just curious to ask you then, Will, from your perspective, why you ended up selecting in play online, why that was an option for you to choose and use with these students, and what you like about it, and basically just how it's utilized by the students in the module, really.
yeah. So I mean, my journey in performance analysis it very much came from um, reading textbooks cover to cover,
Yeah.
and we focus predominantly on notational analysis, and we talk about that narrative from moving from handwritten notational analysis through to computerized systems. What I was finding was that students require now multiple different ways to engage with varying different softwares in
Yeah.
different ways to fit in with how they learn best.
Yeah.
Not all students have access to a computer. Not all students have access uh, to the ability to come on campus.
Yeah.
So we need to offer flexibility for our students to engage with software that does similar things, and also understand how different softwares work differently. In play was something that I learned about through conversations with you. Um, I like the way in which we can have compatibility with NAC Sport with it, but students can also have this cloud-based scenario where they don't have to install anything on their computer. Um, Avoiding the requirement to install things on a computer is a big hit with a lot of my students, despite them being of that nature where technology should be really important for them and they should understand everything about it. They do struggle with installing things on computers. So, that just gets over quite a big barrier within teaching. And in play for me is it's user friendly. And I think the built-in tutorials are very easy to follow through that structure, and they can effectively teach themselves asynchronously within the software. And I think that's another big component that I utilize within the session.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned them because we put a lot of time into them, and they are there for, especially, as a lecturer, you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. So in terms of the technical teaching of the actual software, like that's all given to them in the help video, so they can literally just follow along at their own pace, get a video up, and just do the thing and kind of learn it, like you said, learn it themselves. And also, obviously, the accessing from anywhere and on any device is a big plus, definitely. Perfect. So, do you, in terms of then what the students do, and I know you mentioned before the video, Will, that you kind of changing a little bit the module, but in terms of what are the students expected to do in the analysis module? Are you asking them to go and film games as well, and then break that down, and how does that look?
Yeah, so the module that we run has two components to the assessment. The first assessment is to write up a technical report, which underpins basically the development of a notational system within their particular sport of choice.
Yeah.
The technical report has to provide information on why that notational system is required, and how they effectively justify how they went through the development of that notational system, from effectively through conversations, for example, with a coach, to the development of key performance indicators, the operational definitions of that, and then how that would feed into a computerized or handwritten system, but predominantly they choose computerized systems. And then based on that, what data they would expect to obtain from that system, and then obtain that data, analyze it, and write that up as a report in terms of how that system works. So it's that part of the assessment really goes through their technical abilities of developing it, the system. Because it's a level 5 module, I don't necessarily expect them to film multiple games, or multiple sporting scenarios. We do teach them some of the fundamentals around video analysis and capturing that information. We're progressing further as we've got more equipment now to allow us to go on the field and capture that data live as well. But ultimately, they could choose any part of a game and just apply that to the system that they've captured. As they progress at level 6 and further, then I would expect them to spend more time recording. The second component of the assignment is a coach report. So it's effectively lay information on the key components of what that data actually tells the coach or any of the key stakeholders. And these systems, some individuals will choose very simple systems that simply capture the frequency of passes, and whether those passes are, to simplify things greatly, short, medium, or long passes. And other individuals add in far more complexity around determining where those happened on the pitch, and also combining both qualitative and quantitative information within the report. So we get varied complexities of notational systems. And this, I think, is where in-play feeds in as well, because one thing I really like about in-play is that qualitative element of annotating the videos that you get, and then feeding that into the report really makes for a little bit more of a dynamic, rich data set for them. So yeah,
definitely. I think that because the whole kind of workflows there. So once a video is capped, whether it's captured or given to them, the video can be uploaded. They can then create their tagging panel or their code window around their KPIs. They can code the game. They can then create, they can export the stats via the matrix. They can export the playlist, and as you said there, they can draw on the videos as well. So it's kind of got everything, pull it all together to create that report or end piece of work really. So no, that's perfect and good to hear about how it's being used, Will. So I think the last question then from me is just a general kind of advice for students, Will, really. So obviously a lot of students go through the university and kind of whether it's analysis or other jobs in sport. Just curious to get some advice really, if you can share what you would say for a student to be in the best position to have a successful career in sport and what they can maybe be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably quote one of my undergrad lecturers. He always used to say, get involved. And I think really it's about um, uh, maximizing on all of the opportunities that come about, both as part of that academic curriculum, but also outside of that academic curriculum, working alongside the lecturers and the academic team, and obtaining some levels of experience across multitude of different sports and perhaps different areas or disciplines within sport as a whole. If you are working at a sports team and you've got yourself in there, great. But I think it is all about going that extra mile.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be, no, I won't be negative about working in the football environment, but we know that it's highly competitive.
Yeah.
We know that internships, unpaid internships are something that is rife and inescapable. Now, I don't think any of us would necessarily promote it to be a good thing, but that is the nature of it. But whilst you're in that internship, you've got to maximize on those opportunities that you have. And a lot of the time, what they're looking for are those individuals that are going the extra mile. They're not just doing what the basics of their job role entails. They're going above and beyond to understand the multidisciplinary role that a performance analyst would sit in alongside strength and conditioning, head coaches, assistant coaches, the physiotherapists. And that I think is a really key component for them as well, is to appreciate where they sit in that kind of mechanics within football, but across a multitude of different sports. So yeah, get involved, do as much as you can, study, read. Yeah.
Nice. No, good answer. Very good answer. That's everything, Will. That's Eddie. That's brilliant. Thanks very much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you soon when we pop up and do a visit.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Chris.